Okay, so we can start. Um, so what we had last time. In our last session, you guys finally made it to Baldur's Gate, but you had to pass through the outer city where Roscoe had a reading at a fortune teller named Gomori. You had quite an interesting reading there. And then basically you pushed through and headed to the Black Lake district. Your companion, the merchant Nathek Hornswallow, invited you to stay at his residence while you guys sort things out in Baldur's Gate. On the way there, Thokk spotted a painting bearing the image of Talis, his missing friend, and the agent that the Blue Dragon Lenithan is searching for. Thokk managed to get the painting, and you saw a message that was inscribed at the back of it, kind of a riddle, and you indeed deciphered its meaning, the word lantern. You made it to Nathek's residence and enjoyed the hospitality of his housekeeper, a Kalishite woman named Zara. So you had a bath, you ate, you drank, you refreshed yourself, and in the meantime, Nathek left and he returned on time for dinner, giving you some gifts in return for your recent help. So each one of you basically got this magical trinket as a token of appreciation from Nathek. Nathek basically raised the toast and said that we can simply enjoy dinner and we'll discuss business later on this night. But for now, it's all about eating, good drink, good food, and the telling of interesting tales to the light of the fireplace. And this is where we basically stopped last time. So when dinner is done, Zara kind of puts the dishes away. Nathek invites you all to his living room to sit in front of the fireplace, and he hands out pipes for you if you want to join him. And he has this small box with smoking weed that he hands to you. And then he says,
I don't think Roscoe has ever smoked weed before, but he'll try.
Okay.
Devlin will have a go as well.
Okay, so you all sit there comfortably with some port wine and smoking pipes in your hands, watching the flames dancing in Nathek's humble residence. And then as he watches the flame dance, he says, I left Amn because it was customary to backstab your competition, both figuratively and literally. I was hoping that Baldur's Gate would be different. But this business with Grimmalk, I don't know anymore.
I doubt there is any real city in this whole coast that can be considered, shall we say, nice and reasonable.
But we could make it be like that if we simply do the right thing. I've been thinking about what you told me, and he looks at Roscoe when he says that. For some reason, I was left alive. Makes me think that maybe Grimmalk ordered someone to have me dead, but that someone maybe had a change of heart. I don't know. And this is an opportunity. I should use it to get rid of this Grimmalk, but I want to do it clean and by the book. I want the patriarchs' families the ruling council of Baldur's Gate to be aware of his association with the dragon cult. But I need evidence. And I was hoping maybe you can help me get that evidence.
I mean, that sort of makes sense. I'm not sure that I would jump to the conclusion that you jumped to, which is that he left you alive, so that means that he wanted to kill you, but then the person he ordered to kill you didn't do it. I mean, that's maybe, but that wouldn't be like my first guess. My first guess would just be that he didn't try to kill you. But anyway, yeah, I think we should I mean, if they're in this dragon cult, then maybe I don't know actually. So yeah, let's evidence. Yes.
What was this man's name again? You think so?
The caravan master that Nathek traveled with, his name is Grimalk. He's a dwarf. Nathek says, I can contact Lady Hargan Targana. She's a member of the Targana Patriarch family. If I'll hand her some evidence that Grimalk is associated with a cult. You see, her son perished during a cult ritual. He was convinced to join a Bainite cult in Baldur's Gate, and ever since he died, she holds this burning hatred to cultists. If I can bring some evidence to her, she will probably take it to the Council of Peers, and we can have this Grimalk exiled from Baldur's Gate, making it, well, a cleaner place.
Do you think that if we help the Council of Peers will make it so that we don't get arrested anymore? At least, like, here? Not that we've been arrested yet, but I mean, I just kind of feel like we will be. Maybe.
He says, well, I suppose so, if you exposed dragon cultists operating inside Baldur's Gate, and your deeds will be known to the council, then I assume so. It's only reasonable to think that they will pardon you. And he looks at you and says, you talking about this hush-hush shadowy business you had in El Turel, am I right?
Well, I mean, yes and no, and then I go like wink, wink.
It's not really hush-hush or shadowy. The place is run by a sadistic lunatic that thinks we're in league with evil.
Well, what a better way to prove you're not, by exposing evil. I am sure we can make maybe the officials in El Turel understand this is all a big misunderstanding, but you will need the power of the council behind you. And I can make the connection with Lady Hagen Targana. She is a very nice person. But again, we will need hard evidence, and unfortunately I have to stay low. If Grimalk knows I'm back in town, I'm sure he will be extra cautious. And he turns to you, Roscoe, and says, assuming he expects me to be dead.
Well, I guess, I don't know. Does that mean we should maybe infiltrate them? Do you think we can do that? I mean, I could probably hide somewhere and find evidence in a desk or a cabinet, or maybe pickpocket somebody. I don't know.
So Nathek says, think about it this way. I'm sure that while we travel the streets of Baldur's Gate, you managed to see those handlers wearing poles and on top of them baskets with all sorts of packages and crates and boxes. This is the way Baldur's Gate keeps itself free from horses and carriages and caravans running through it. You see, Grimlock will have to reach Baldur's Gate and unload his cargo, haul it through Baldur's Gate to the northern gate, and from there hire a new caravan and new caravan guards. But I am not sure who is conducting business for him. I was hoping maybe you could have some, I don't know, maybe ask around as, strangers. You might get answers I won't be able to get.
Is there the equivalent of a merchant's guild here?
The Union of Handlers is indeed a guild, but it's not a merchant guild. It's a guild of cargo haulers. They operate only within the city. You see that the Council of Peers does not allow beasts of burden, horses, and caravans to run through the city.
It may be a good idea if we can find the equivalent of a coordinator for these handlers.
Exactly. My thoughts. Exactly. I was only aware of Grimlock when I was in need of a caravan. I was talking directly to him. I'm not sure this is the right way to go in our case right now.
Well, I may be able to help. Usually, if you want to track goods, the best way to do it is to contact those who track goods for a living.
Nathok looks at you and smiles and says, well, of course, but I shouldn't be aware of any of this, right? We said clean, so if you want to do it your way, do it your way, but the less I know, it's safer for
Information
everyone.
is always clean.
And he smiles and says, yes, of course you're right. You are, of course, invited to stay with me as long as you like. I will make the arrangements with Lady Hargan. If and when you come with some hard evidence associating Grimlock with the cult, then I can make my move. And he says, of course, you will all be well compensated for your efforts.
So when do I put my disguise on?
Whenever you want. Right now it's basically the middle of the night, but you're free to do what you want to do.
Is there any activity out on the streets at night?
Oh yeah, basically Baldur's Gate is like this, bustling city, 24/7. There's always action in the streets. The only place that regular people aren't allowed to travel during the night is the upper city, basically the home of the rich and the Patria families. These streets are clear at night and they have patrols, but all the rest is like open and restaurants, inns, cafes, whatever.
Okay, well, before we call it a night, I'd like to head back over to the artist shop where I found the painting.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else wants to do something before closing out?
I'm going to have an early night because I'm going to go roaming around in the morning. So.
Okay, very good. Roscoe?
I guess I just want to test my new thing out a little bit.
Okay. Great.
Nethek, what's the most expensive spice that they sell in the city?
Well, they do have peppers from Harlua, which is a far, far away land ruled by magicians. This is probably the most sought-after spice in the upper city right now.
Okay, so I'll try immediately to make one.
A dose. Okay.
As I put the spoon in, and I say, "Abracadabra, peppers from Halua."
And yes, indeed, immediately you. Sorry. Indeed, you find a spoonful of this very, very powerful scented black pepper. It's like grounded, and by simply blowing, breathing above the spoon, people around you start to sneeze. But yes,
People pay for this? Oh my gosh! Well, okay. And then Roscoe will keep doing that shit until the spoon doesn't work anymore.
okay. So you get like 10 spoons filled with this pepper.
I was going to ask, could one of the spoons be some nutmeg? Because he'd quite like some with his milk.
Oh, okay. So one of the spoons, I'll give you a spoon of nutmeg.
Excellent. So he'll get himself ask Zara for a glass of warm milk and a bit of nutmeg, and that's it. Is it good?
It's fabulous, and Nathek looks at you.
A little peppery.
Yeah. And Nathek looks at you and smiles and says, the pleasures of a big city. A warm fire, good food, friends. It's a change from
Sneezing.
Sneezing. Yes. Just a change from the life on the road.
The wilderness has certain charms, but this is usually where all the action is happening in the city.
He nods and puffs his pipe. So you two are basically enjoying Roscoe's magical spoon, while Thokk, you leave and head toward the painter's shop. You do find the shop open, but the door is closed, basically meaning that the door is closed, but the shop is open. The shopkeeper isn't inside. You find his assistant there. If you remember last time, he accused him of drawing those letters. There was an argument between the two of them.
Actually, I wasn't going to go inside. I was going to look around the outside for any lanterns that may be hanging on the building or street lamps.
Okay. So yes, there are street lamps. Most of them are, oil based, and they are lit, but they simply hang throughout the main roads or the main streets, spaced, I don't know, like 60, 70 feet apart, many of them. And you see people strolling down the street, talking among themselves, sitting in taverns. The place is like bustling.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a quick look at the lanterns on the outside of the building and on the street in front of the building and see if there's anything that catches my eye.
Okay. As you do, you can see a young man holding hands with a young lady. They're dressed like merchants gone on vacation, bright pants and a dark shirt with a cloak to cover them and give them some protection against the cold during the night. And he looks at you with his big green eyes and says, the lamp is operating okay, I hope? Is it magical?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you're one of those people who maintain the magical lamps across Baldur's Gate. I heard some of the lamps are magical. I was hoping to look at one, but they don't allow me in the upper city. Which is quite a shame. I am wealthy, but not very known here, apparently.
Oh well, maybe if you're north of the gates, before they close them at night, they'll let you stay.
Oh, you see, and then he turns to his companion. I told you, we can simply sneak in. No one will say anything. And he holds his hand and says, I'm sorry for being rude. My name is Raffans Bilfor. And this is Kaelin. He basically holds
A pleasure to meet you.
Oh.
I'm called Thokk.
So, Thokk, what are you, why are you examining that lamp?
I'm examining everything. It's my first time in the city.
Oh. So in this case, you should probably head to the Three Old Kegs Inn. It's a wonderful place, and it's full of tourists and visitors and adventurers. It's really a very interesting place to visit.
Well, thank you. That sounds wonderful.
Have a good night. And then he picks his fiancée or wife or friend, and then he leaves.
Okay, I didn't notice anything about the lanterns.
Make a perception check.
They're lit.
Yep, there's fire there, and it's yellow.
Do I see any members of the Night Watch or the Guard walking around?
Yes.
I'm going to walk up to one of them and say, "Excuse me, gentlemen. I was wondering if I could ask you a question."
Of course, good sir. How can we be of assistance?
I was supposed to meet some friends here in the city, but I was delayed, and so they weren't where I was supposed to meet them originally. They mentioned an inn called the Something Lantern, but I can't recall what it was, and that was where they were going to be staying. Does that ring a bell with anyone?
They all look at each other and then basically move to circle you without, making themselves too apparent that they're doing so. And the watchman that you are talking to says, maybe the Low Lantern Inn?
That doesn't sound familiar, but if that's the only place you could think of with the name with the lantern in the name, I guess I'll check and see if they're there.
Hold on for a few more minutes. The Low Lantern is a marooned ship at the dock, which was converted to an inn some time ago. But this place is, and he looks at you like up and down, not a very popular among civilized men and women. Are you sure your friend is staying there?
Well, no, I just said I wasn't sure where they were staying. I just remember them mentioning an inn with lantern in the name, and I couldn't remember what it was called. That's why I was asking.
He says,
This is a very large city, so I'll follow any lead I can get, because I'm sure going door to door is not going to work.
he looks at you and says, well, in this case, you can of course visit the place, but I would not recommend going there without backup. Yes, that's the word I was searching for. Maybe a few friends that can help you watch your back.
Oh my, but it's my friends I'm looking for.
Well, in this case, I do recommend that you stay clear of that place. It's it has a reputation, you see. Every once in a while, we are called to make sure no one gets really hurt, but sometimes we arrive too late.
Maybe better in daylight then, yes.
I would assume so, yes. Have a pleasant visit.
In that case, is there another inn nearby where you might recommend that I stay?
Well, you can find several places that are let's say, more respectable. You can meet the adventurers and tourists and strangers, people outside of the city in the Three Old Kegs Inn, which is a very tolerant and respectable place. If you seek some peace and quiet and maybe hear music, and he looks at your if you're carrying any musical instrument, then he's kind of eyeing that. He says you can visit the Elf Song Tavern. You know, sometimes people hear the spirit of its previous owner, deceased a long time ago, but her spirit is sometime floating in the corridors of the inn, singing. It's a beautiful song, but well, it is a little bit more costly to visit there. And finally, there is the Undercellar if you want to feel a little bit more adventurer. It is a cluster of chambers and storage cellars beneath the city that has been converted to an inn. It has some seedy parts, but most of it is fine and, you know, interesting to visit.
Well, that is definitely a wide range of choices. I think the first place you mentioned, the Three Old Kegs, sounds like a nice place to spend the evening. Could you give me directions?
Yes, of course. And he shows you around and tells you to give his regards to Elston Wintersides. He is one of the three brothers who owns this inn. And he says that you can basically confide in Elston and tell him or ask of him anything you want. You know, stories about the city, information about the you know, locations in the city. Is a very welcoming man. Simply tell him that Nestor from the Watch sent you there.
Thank you very much, good sir, and have a pleasant evening.
You too, and a safe one.
And I'll make my way to the Three Old Kegs.
Okay. So as the night kind of you know, as you go to the wee hours of the night, Roscoe and Devlin, anything you want to do in addition to producing copious amounts of spice from Roscoe's spoon?
No, just sleep. For me.
I'm gonna continue to talk to Zara
Okay.
just about the place and trying to sort of chat her up a little bit.
Okay. Anything specific you want to ask her?
The recipe she used for our meal. He's quite interested. It was really nice.
She smiles and says that sometimes the simplest food can be of a great comfort. We used this recipe when our families came to Baldur's Gate as refugees from Kalishite. We had only access to the most simple ingredients and simple products, but it turns out that with some care and some correct spicing and a lot of love put in the food, it does make the taste a lot better.
Well, I must say that you have the hands of silk, because it was a very, very tasty meal. The way you managed to pull all the all the sensations together within the food. Truly amazing.
She smiles, blushes, and says that if you find Kalishite food good, you should probably visit Little Kalimshan, but during the day you can enjoy their golden sand ale, which is known throughout the region. But please do it only during the day. At night, this place gets a little wild.
I have been to a few cities where the night is not a place to be walking around. I remember a long time ago visiting Faye and feeling very unwelcome, especially at night.
She says, well, most of Baldur's Gate is probably fine. The upper city, of course, is out of limit, and Little Kalimshan, well, they don't like strangers there during the night, but during the day it's all clear and fine. Well, we are not as secure and as civilized, maybe, as Waterdeep. Baldur's Gate does have its good sides.
Believe me, as someone who's also visited Watergate, it's the concept of civilized can be greatly over exaggerated in Waterdeep. I remember a time when a friend of mine visited there. He was only visiting there for trading purposes, but he actually managed to get himself in trouble there over one simple element that he doesn't even now. He says he never ever did.
What it was did he commit a crime unknowingly, maybe?
Yes, he, I suppose unknowing would be a better word as any. They have a strange, I suppose what it would be, cultural element that you are not allowed to really talk about the, I'm trying to remember their name now, the people who run Watergate.
Oh, you're talking about those masked lords.
Yes, people tend to get, shall we say, somewhat defensive about them. Obviously, they're all masked except for one of them. He said something that was, shall we say, derogatory towards them about them not putting enough effort into helping the people of the Sword Coast, and oh wow, it didn't go well for him at all.
Well, I wouldn't trust anyone wearing a mask. Obviously hiding something. But, well, at least here we have 4 ruling dukes and the Council of Peers. But I do admit that they are sometimes overrun with their bureaucratic nonsense, and they sometimes neglect parts of the city. I have to admit that I'm very lucky to have met Mr. Hornswallow here. He pulled me out of poverty, and I'm able to support my family in the outer city.
How many of your family are currently living in Baldur's Gate?
Oh, it's my sister, my brother, and I have 2 aunts, and each of them has something like 4 or 5 kids. So,
that is a big family.
Yes, but fortunately, Lord, I always think of him as a noble, but Mr. Hornswallow pays me enough so I can actually support them.
He sounds like a good man. I mean, I've only known him for a little while, but he sounds like a good man.
Oh, yes, he is. His heart is in the right place, and he is trying to make an honest living here. But I've heard what you talked about with this awful dwarf. I've met him only once, and he is really nasty. I don't like him.
Does he basically? Do you know much about him, this Grim Walk? If I think.
All I know is that he's some sort of a how should I say it? He operates a business for guarding caravans, but his booth in the wide is always the best booth. He always gets the best deals. He always gets the best position in the wide. He always gets his papers ready earlier before everyone. I personally believe he is either blackmailing someone, an official of some sort, or I don't know. But I don't like him. He's doing business, but he isn't doing it clean and straight and by the book like Mr. Hornswallow here is trying to do, which is probably the reason this dwarf is so rich and successful.
Well, it takes all sorts in this world. Having visited a few places on the Sword Coast, shall we say, they all have a way of running, shall we say.
Yes.
They may not be the best for people, just best for a small amount of people.
And while you and Zara are talking, Khalid approaches Roscoe. Roscoe, as you kind of play with your spoon, Khalid is basically sitting there, like I don't know, 3 or 4 feet far, and simply eyeballing how you produce spices from the spoon. He seems very interested and intrigued.
Have I introduced you to my friend Nibbles?
He looks at Devlin, and he says, "Hi, Nibbles," and he kind of stretches his hand toward Devlin.
Oh no, that's not his name. This is Nibbles, and I take my pet out of my pocket. Hopefully she's there and not dead. I haven't paid much attention to her in a while in game.
As he sort of stretches out to me, I'll give him a little wave.
So Khalid looks at you, Devlin, and then at the little space hamster that Roscoe produced, and immediately is on his knees playing with your pet. And he asks you, what does he eat?
Oh, she likes nuts and seeds and cheese, and she has a very varied diet. I make sure that it's balanced and healthy for her. I've been training her how to fetch. It's taking a while, but I think she's starting to get the hang of it. And then I will try and demonstrate her level of training by pointing to something, by maybe putting a coin in the room somewhere, and then pointing to it, and then saying "fetch" to her, and then we'll see if she listens or not. If she's learned it.
Okay. So make an animal handling check, which is, I don't know. Oh yeah. So yes, she requires a bit of like persuasion. You wave a bit of food or something, but eventually she finds the coin and brings it back to you.
Yes, and then she gets her favorite treat and lots of cuddles and kisses and praise.
And Khalid is basically sitting there watching you with big eyes, obviously enjoying you and your hamster. You don't think he ever seen a halfling before.
So Khalid, did you I I heard that you come from Kalasham, from a far, long way away. Do you miss home? Is there anyone from your family that you miss?
He says that place was a bad place. We fled because the sky were on fire.
The sky was on fire. Wow, that's pretty bad.
Yes, my mom says there was a war with devils, and we fled because we couldn't win it. But my father stayed there to fight the devils. He's a big hero. I'm sure he will come someday and find us here, and I'll show him around. I'll show him the city, and I'll show him Nibbles, and I'll introduce him to Nathak, and maybe he will stay with us here.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. I'm sure he misses you very much. I'm sure he thinks about you every day, all the time.
And he smiles and continues to play with Nibbles. At this point, Thokk, you find yourself in front of a like a 3 or maybe 4-story building. This place is obviously named for his sign, which features kind of 3 lashed together barrels hanging from a pole. This place is immensely popular because like a ton of people are crowding inside and outside, and the place has the appearance of a place that was rebuilt several times. You can see the outer walls of basically what was an ancient mansion that was added on with towers and more rooms and additional chambers, and the central feasting hall is open and it's facing the bar, and inside, as you kind of squeeze inside, it opens directly into the main common room, and at the bar you can see 3 middle-aged men as they serve simple food, good brews, wine to like a ton of guests. Most of them are adventurers, at least by looking at how they dressed and the weapons that they're carrying. You don't see the presence of any Flaming Fists officer or city watch, but as you kind of move your eyes around, you immediately notice a dozen or so again middle-aged men that simply sit there and watch, and you have a feeling that these are maybe guards,
Off-duty cops.
yeah, something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna make my way up to the bar.
Yep. So you find a place to sit yourself, and even though in the first place you think that you don't have a chair available, as people watch you approach the bar, they kind of jump around and move around and make some space for you, and a barmaid kind of swoops in and hands you a stool so you can sit on it, and as you do, the barkeep looks at you and says, "Yes, good sir, what can I bring you? Food, drink, information?" And he smiles and winks.
Drink sounds like a good place to start. What's your finest ale?
Oh, I have the original thick keg, which is something we are proud of making our own. If you like it.
Sounds wonderful.
Yes. Yes, it's my personal favorite, but my brother, and he points at someone working on the other side of the bar, think it's more popular with dwarves. but I believe you'll like it.
Always drink that. Is it your house ale?
Oh yes, this is my personal creation. My two brothers, the old toads, they have their own brews, but you've come to the right brother if you are into this sort of smooth, dark, honey-like ale.
Always order the house ale. That sounds wonderful.
Anything I can get you to eat. We have buttered potatoes today.
Well, that would be wonderful too. And tell me, is one of these gentlemen at the bar named Alston?
He smiles and says, well, it's your lucky day. This is me.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I ran into a friend of yours in the street, a gentleman named Nestor with the watch.
Oh,
He said to give you his best.
old Nestor. What has he been up to lately? You didn't,
Oh, I just met him this evening. He was a very pleasant gentleman, and actually, I pull out a gold piece and slide it to Alton. It says, if he ever comes to see you, buy him one for me, please.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I will surely do that. And with this amount of gold, I will also take care of his dinner and laundry. And he pulls it up and put the coin in his pants. In a pocket, of course. So what brings you to my humble establishment? And as he talks to you, he kind of serves like a dozen more of his clients. But he does keep an eye on you.
Oh, I was supposed to meet a friend in town, but I'm several weeks late arriving, so I didn't find them where I was told to meet. And as I was attempting to find directions to where they might be, I ran into your friend Nestor, and he recommended this as a better place to stay than where he thought my friend might have been suggesting. And so I decided to try out your establishment and maybe see this less reputable tavern in the daylight.
And he kind of squints his eye and says, "Well, you don't mean the Low Lantern Inn, do you? I really hope your friend isn't staying there."
Well, I don't know for sure. She just mentioned some tavern with the name Lantern in it. I don't recall what it was.
Well, the Low Lantern is basically an aging three-masted merchant ship. She is marooned near the Stormshore Street dock. She can't move. She's stuck. And after a while, the owner converted it into an inn. But, well, it's not a very nice place. And sometimes people go there just for the sake of... how should I say, illegal entertainment.
Well, am I also to assume it's probably one of the lower priced inns in the town?
Oh yes, of course. The drink is awful. The
That's
food.
probably what attracted them. My friends tend to be between coins most of the time.
I see. Well, you have to understand that the crew that operates it is actually an ex-pirate crew that used to sail the Lone Lantern through the South Coast, but now they're marooned, so it's not a very pleasant place to stay unless you're plan to gamble and lose a lot of money, or win and lose your life. It's as I said, not a pleasant place to visit. Why do you think your friend headed to that specific place? And while he says that, he kind of looks at you, trying to make it look like he is just making a conversation, but you can see that he's very alert, and as he awaits your answer.
Oh, well, like I said, I don't know if she's there or not. We were having a conversation before she headed this way, and I was supposed to join her several weeks ago. And she had mentioned a tavern, and like I said, I don't remember the name, just that there was Lantern in the name. And so now I'm looking to see if that's where she might be staying.
He looks to the left and to the right and says, "You know what? You look like a decent an honest man. So here's what I can do for you. And he kind of points backward toward the kitchen door, and he says, the Low Lantern's captain, Lady Larley Thunderdreath, she sometimes orders our specific brews for her own crew. I can arrange for you to transport a crate full of bottles filled with our house ale. You can take it to her and maybe sniff around, but I do recommend you grab a few friends. Make sure you don't go there alone.
Oh, your friend Nestor said the same thing, which I find highly amusing because my friends are who I'm trying to find.
Yes, I do understand that. Well, maybe you should at least pay some gold to someone who will escort you there. And he kind of points at those middle-aged men who sit idle. Maybe one of them can simply walk with you. Or if you have any other arrangement, that's fine. But don't go there alone.
I appreciate your advice, sir, but generally I can look out for myself, and when all else fails, I run very fast.
Okay. He calls for one of the barmaids and whispers something on her ear, and then she returns with a small crate. It's not a very big one, with 9 bottles of the ale you are drinking, and it's labeled as the 3 old kegs with the 3 old kegs sign, and he says simply take this to the lady captain. Tell her that her shipment is due. Just mention my name, and she will take it and probably pay you something like 5 gold, which is enough. But don't make a
Should I
fuss.
take it this evening, or should I wait for daylight?
She is mostly awake during the evening. Again, I wouldn't recommend going there alone, but that's your decision to make. And he hands you the crate and says, don't worry if she decides to pay less. This one is on me.
Well, I thank you for all your help, sir.
And then he simply smiles and turns to handle his other clients.
And I'll heft the crate and head out.
Okay. Great. Back at the Hornswallow residence, Zara is preparing to settle in and head to bed. She helps Nathak, who is snoring on his couch, head to his bedchamber, and she prepares one bedchamber for basically 2 bedchambers for the 4 of you, and she heads to Devlin and Roscoe, showing you around, and saying that she will probably wake you up with a good breakfast.
Has her son gone to bed, has he?
Yes.
I will retire myself because I've got an early day tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank her very much for the meal and for her company, and then retire.
Okay. Roscoe?
Same.
Okay.
About what time is it?
So you think it's like 3 a.m., something like that?
Oh my gosh, yeah, Russ, it's been a long day.
Yes. And the
And
bed...
wasn't I stabbed? Was it today I was stabbed or the day before? To death.
When you get stabbed continually, they all sort of meld into one day, don't they, really? I've been doing this role-playing thing for a while, and you get stabbed practically every day. It's like...
I feel like either way, Roscoe, let's go to sleep. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay, Thokk, what about you?
I guess I'm taking the crate to the low lantern.
Okay. So this late at night, the place you can see the big ship kind of she rocks against the docks, but you don't see anyone coming in or coming out. There are a few lit windows. You don't hear any singing or any talking. There is like a pluck, a board made of wood that leads to the ship, and the docks around it are kind of clear. But farther away from the ship, you can definitely see people, mostly dock hands, awaiting the fishermen's boats to hire help as they go fishing, like in 2 hours time. Other than that, the place is basically empty. They do look at you strangely as you kind of make your way to the ship. So is there anything you want to do, or simply head straight to the...
I'm gonna drag the crate up to the front door, and if it's closed, I'm gonna knock, and if it's not, I'm gonna walk in.
Okay, so you do walk in, and you find like the upper deck. You can see that it's open. It's a place of like hanging lamps. Some people are standing there, smoking, drinking, but they do seem like the crew. You don't think these are clients at all. And as you walk into the upper deck, they look at you with kind of glinting eyes. I need to make a perception check. Okay. As you come in, two of them kind of like hurry to meet you before you go further into the deck, and they stop you right there. Looking for trouble?
Actually, looking for Lady Lorelei. I have a delivery from the Three Old Kegs.
And they look at the crate and say, "You can put it right here on the floor and leave."
I'm sorry, Austin said to make sure it got to Lady Lorelei.
And they smile and say, "You wouldn't want to be the one waking her up, not even for her favorite booze."
But Austin assured me she'd be up. That's why he sent me now.
They look at each other and say, "The lower deck isn't a place you want to see at this hour of the night, and the lady is resting. You can leave it here and we'll take care of the rest."
That's not my commission, sir. If I need to leave it here, then I'll have to stay with it.
And take it back to Austin and tell him to shove it. We don't like his nose poking around our ship.
Not poking, just making a delivery. And I'll set the crate down next to the edge of the rail where I came up, and sit down on top of it and start playing my Yartling.
Make a performance check. You
Finally a decent roll.
you start your playing, and after a few seconds in which the crew is basically staring at you, a window cracks open, and the face of a surprisingly young woman kind of peeps out, and she looks at you and says, "Oh, my delivery. Fabulous. Send him in, boys." And they kind of shrug and points upward. So think about it this way: the deck is opened. The deck is you have a door that leads to the captain's quarter, and then right next to it there's a staircase that leads to the lower deck. They point upward.
I'll carry the case upward.
Okay. You are climbing the stairs and finding yourself in a lush and comfortable and warm chamber. There's a desk, several crates, a big map of the Sword Coast, now all crumpled and cracked, and one young lady with her boots on the table and like a large cigarette in her delicate hands, and a glinting dagger that rests right next to her boots. She sits there on a leather chair and smiles as you go in. And she says,
I'll walk in and sit down the crate and bow and say, Lady Lorelei, I presume?
and she says, "You may presume that, yes. Why are you here?"
I bring your delivery from Alston at the Three Old Kegs.
She smiles. I need to make a deception check.
Deception, I'm telling the truth.
She
Nat
smiles.
20.
Yep. So she smiles and looks at you up and down, and then her smile kind of fades. And she says, yes, well, it does seem so. I was hoping otherwise. You can put the crate here and tell Alston I'll pay him tomorrow.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Actually, he let me deliver the crate as a favor, as a way to get an introduction to you. I was actually looking for a friend of mine that I thought might be near here.
Her big smile kind of shows up again, ignites again on her face, and she says, "Oh, now that is interesting. I was hoping for some entertainment this evening, and you're a good liar. Could probably use someone like you." And your friend's name?
Talus?
She removes her boots from the table and says, "Yes, there was someone with that name here a few weeks ago, I believe. Why are you so interested in her?"
Oh, we're old friends, and she told me to meet her here at the gate.
She smiles and say, "Come with me." And she leaves her room and goes down the stairs and further down the stairs to the lower deck.
I'll follow her.
Okay. Her crew is kind of gathering around, but she kind of waves them, and then all you can see is their faces as they are looking at you, following her into the belly of the ship. At the lower deck, you can see a lot of crates and, basically it's like a storage room for a tavern. You can see some dried up meat on hooks. You can see crates full of, rice and beans and potatoes. She takes you even further and moves a big crate and exposes another staircase going deeper below. You believe that if you judge the directions correctly, you're probably being led to some entrance that leads below the dock, not on sea anymore. Like it connects to some basement or cellar just below the docks. And she opens the pathway and smiles and says, "She was here like a week or two ago. Please follow me."
she say where she was going, and I'll follow her.
She says, all I know that she was taken, not going anywhere. And,
By whom?
well, by another friend of hers. She looks at you with glinting eyes. She kind of snaps her fingers in the darkness below the ship, and a light snaps into existence, and you can see that you are indeed in some sort of an underground cellar. You have left the ship and you're traveling someplace, some corridors below the dock. She take a few turns and then finds herself in front of a door. On top of it there is this like a drawing or painting of a 5-headed dragon. Each dragon is with his own color, like white, red, blue, green, black. And she knocks on the door and then opens it for you, and she says, after you.
I'll step through.
Okay. Inside, you can see this big chamber with a lot of openings and corridors and passageways that lead through it. She smiles and with her light follows through and take you to another chamber. And when you approach it, you can definitely hear chanting. You can't make out the words, but the chanting is clear. And then she says, she was taken because she was accused of spying against the people who are using this place as a small shrine to their god.
Oh, well, I know nothing about that. We grew up together.
Well, in this case...
Said she was coming to the gate and that I should come find her.
Well, maybe you can talk to the people within this room. They will be able to answer your questions. And then she opens the door, and you find yourself in another chamber. The one huge item of interest you can see is a huge statue of a dragon, a five-headed dragon. In each of his mouths, there is a small urn with fire burning inside of it, and each urn is producing fire of a different color, white, red, according to the dragon's color. Around this statue, there are 5 people, hoods pulled to conceal their faces, and they are chanting and mumbling some sort of a prayer toward this statue. They are all wearing red robes. One of them is wearing a black robe and is holding in front of him a big book. He then turns to look at you and at the captain, the lady captain. The chanting stops, and then he removes the clock and says, "What is the meaning of this?" And she answers, "This is a friend of Talis. I will leave you with him." And then she smiles and says, "I hope you'll find your friend soon." And then she leaves the room. Thokk, what do you do?
I just kind of stand there and look at them and say, hello?
And the man approaches you, and now that the light is gone, you can see that this is not a man at all. It's a Dragonborn, a black Dragonborn. He removes his cloak and says, "A friend of Talis?"
Yes, sir. We grew up together in Candlekeep. She said if I was ever this way, I should look her up.
And he smiles and says, Talis was a valuable member of our small organization, but she made a big mistake and offended our leaders and offended our god. She was taken away to stand trial for her crimes against our gods. I assume you don't share her beliefs?
I don't share anyone's beliefs. On my experiences, the gods take care of themselves and leave us to do the same.
And he says, how important is it for you to find your friend?
It's very important that I find her.
Well, you see, the only problem with Talis is that she is very stubborn. She refused to say for whom she was spying for. We believe it was a dragon that she was working for. Anything you know about that?
I start laughing. Talus? A dragon? She's scared of snakes.
The Dragonborn you look at seems to be slightly offended. You're not sure why, but he says, we have caught her, giving away some of the locations we are using throughout the city for our harmless prayers. But we didn't get...
I keep laughing a little bit and say, and she probably tried to make a pretty penny on it too. I assure you, sir, Talus is not a spy, but she's never one to pass a profit.
We will be happy to return her to her previous position if some evidence of that could be found. You see, she gave some information to a man named Kiraj, who is residing in the Elfsong Tavern. But this Kiraj is a well-respected resident of the city. We simply cannot approach him directly and convince him to talk. Maybe if you would do us a favor and pay him a visit, ask him of his association with Talis. Maybe this could help shed some light on the subject.
Well, I'd be happy to talk to this gentleman, sir. I'm not sure what he'd tell me is a complete stranger, but I'll be happy to talk to him.
The Dragonborn says, well, you do seem to have the ability to come and visit places no one else have visited or dared to visit. So you are either very brave or very stupid, or a combination of the two.
Talus always said both.
The Dragonborn laughs at that. He lays a hand on your shoulder and says, if you can get this Kiraj to talk and maybe find out who he works for, we will be extremely grateful. The fate of Talis may be in your hands. You see, we take our beliefs very seriously, and she was taken to the High Priest to answer some questions, but as I said, she is very stubborn. If you would be able to get those answers for us, maybe you can spare her some inconvenience.
If I can be of help to Talus in any way, I'll do what I can.
Just make sure to keep our little business here confidential. We don't like people outside of our creed to be aware of our small ceremonies and ways.
Well, that shouldn't be a problem, sir, because I have absolutely no idea where I am at the moment.
The black-cladded Dragonborn nods, and two of his associates reach out to you, and you can hear a spell being cast, and then darkness falls all around you. The Dragonborn says, this is just for your protection. And you can feel two strong arms kind of lead you outside. The spell dissipates once you get to the lower deck of the low lantern. You find yourself among the crates and barrels there.
And I assume the two gentlemen that escorted me are gone?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to make my way out of the inn and back to back to Nathic's residence. And I'm going to take a roundabout path to see if anyone's following me as I go.
Okay, make a perception check. Okay, you reach Nathic's residence late at night. Both Devlin, Tal, and Roscoe are fast asleep, but you can find yourself. You can find your way. Khalid left a small candle for you burning, and you can easily find your way back and slip into your chamber without waking up anyone, unless you desire to.
Nope, just go to bed.
Okay, great. Morning comes and Zara wakes you up with a lush breakfast. She keeps her cooking simple, but the freshly baked bread, which she toasted on her oven, kind of wakes you up, and you eat and are...
I'm out very early, so very early in the morning, which is why I went to bed, so definitely before everyone else is up.
Okay, so you want to leave before everyone else are waking up?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Sure, so you kind of wake up with Zara. She hands you a freshly baked loaf of bread. Before she even slices it, it's still very hot. And you grab it and leave Nathic's house.
I will kiss her hand, kiss the back of her hand for the piece of bread, and then go out. Yeah.
Okay, so you're headed where?
He's heading towards the baker's.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. So you're heading back to the outer city, and you can see Baldur's Gate as it wakes up. Most of the merchants are preparing to open up their booth at the Wide, with the howlers still moving around the city, and you can hear people shouting, crying out and shouting as the streets get, crowded and crowded. But you do find yourself out of the city and at the baker's shop early on in the morning. He is obviously working on his near his oven, preparing for the day.
I wanted to get there before he was probably going to have any people coming in, so
yes,
quite early.
Mm-hmm.
I'll step in.
Yes. He says, too early. Nothing is prepared yet. Please come in an hour or so. And then he turns to you and says, oh, you.
Greetings.
Greetings and salutations. I am sorry. I am sorry that I haven't said anything last time, but I do wish to keep my business open, and The way you treated those businessmen will surely cause me a lot of trouble far down along the way.
I understand. We all need to look after interests in this place. It's a very easy place to get lost.
I tend to agree. Can I help you in any way?
I was just admiring the emblem that you have on your apron. It's a very nice emblem.
He looks down at the harp symbol on his apron, and he says, this silly thing, my wife used to play this instrument. She called it a harp, but she passed away, and all I have left is this apron. I do wear it in her honor. She could make bread sing, sort of speak, and he kind of laughs a little bit, and then his laughter kind of gets stuck in his throat.
I will Harpers are basically a secret organization, so I want to try and determine whether he's a Harper or not. So I will use the special greeting that Harpers give one another, which is a special form of handshake with certain words placed at certain strategic times during the handshake.
Okay. So you two are basically discussing and talking a little bit, and you insert those words and gestures, and eventually the baker's face kind of brighten up, and he leans forward and says, "You're here for Tomasa, right?"
Question: am I here for Tomasa? Have I been told about this? Because I don't remember it.
No, you don't. No, you haven't. You have no idea what he's talking about.
That would be interesting, yes. Tell me more.
Well, he is imprisoned in the undercellar. We are trying to get someone to break in and free him. We've been told he was imprisoned because he saw her.
He saw who?
The half-dragon. She was in a carriage. She hired a private carriage with curtains to disguise her identity, but he managed to see her, and they want it buried. They want it out. We have to understand what's going on here. Obviously, the cult is trying to operate in the city, but we're not sure where.
That is interesting. Do you know any reason why she's here besides I've come into this late on, just found out about certain things that have been going on with the cult of the dragon. Does anyone have any idea why she's here?
Well, we believe that she is leading a caravan that hauls treasure to the north, but we haven't determined where exactly. You did hear about those raids on recent settlements and small villages. Well, where do you think all this treasure is headed to? We don't know, but we do know that she is behind it. She is one of those high-ranking cult officials that pulls the strings, and we have to know what's going on. But Tomasa tried to investigate and got burned. She probably saw him as he was following her carriage. Sorry.
Does she have any ties with Grimwalk, the caravan merchant we are looking for him, as he seems to be mixed up in this particular element.
I would assume so. She probably needs a contact in town, and she wouldn't turn to some goody-good merchant who can actually help her. She would probably hire the services of a criminal. And Grimalk, well, he has a reputation here. But most of the information you can get from Tomasa. He was the one actually spying on her. He was the one actually learning of her movements and of her contacts. The fact is that they've got him. They've imprisoned him somewhere in the undercellar, but we don't know where. The place is vast and probably some secret entrance that we are unfamiliar with. If we can rescue him, we can probably answer a lot of questions.
Who is currently holding him? Do you believe it to be the Cult of the Dragon, or are we looking at a third party in all of this mayhem?
It's the cult, I am sure of it. They probably sent him somewhere, a hideout of a sort, to interrogate him. I seriously hope he doesn't speak. Otherwise, some of us will need to pack and get away. Flee the city if we don't want our identities to be exposed.
It seems reasonable. Do you know how to get to the under cellar? Is there only the one way? Is there a back entrance? Because we do not want to be seen necessarily going in there, because that could even bring down more heat upon an already, dry kindle situation.
Well, there are several entrances to the undercellar. Most of them are not really publicly known. You see, the undercellar was... it's dated back to the days of Baldur's Gate as a hideout for pirates. It's a big, sprawling place, but there is the Undercellar Fest Hall, which is a tavern that is well known and quite pleasant. But from this fest hall, there are numerous openings and archways and corridors that leads deep inside and to places unexplored. They are probably holding him somewhere there. If you want to enter the tavern, you can seek Vog Gorkul. He's a dwarven weapon seller, and his shop leads to the feast hall that is the undercellar. A lot of adventurers gather there looking for a job or simply looking for adventure, exploring the undercellar, more shadowy corridors. It's a dangerous way to make yourself known in the city, but, well, danger is what these people are looking for.
I understand. Has there been a lot of activity with the cult in this area recently? Besides this?
We know that they have been attacking a lot of settlements. The biggest was Greenest, that was attacked like 2 weeks ago. I think they managed to survive, but a lot of their people have perished. And I know of some other raids on settlements near Berdusk and even around Candlekeep. But this is all I know. They avoided attacking big cities. I don't think they have the resources to pull out such a raid, but rumor says that they have dragons aiding them, so it's probably just a matter of time.
Is there are we looking at a specific dragon that is their leader? We obviously know the cult works on a basis of worshipping dragons, so I'm trying to see if there is a specific one we should be looking for or looking to be wary of.
Well, we believe that all this treasure is hauled up north to probably the hideout of some colossal dragon. Think about all this treasure, worthy of the king of dragons. But we haven't been able to track not this dragon or this treasure. We do know that there have been some sightings of blue and black dragons in this region lately.
I'll shiver at the idea of blue and black dragons.
Yes, if the cult managed to make them cooperate, this is indeed a very bad time for the sword course and probably for the realms.
Thank you, my friend. That is very interesting to know.
Once you free Tomasa, let me know. I will come and pick him up and make sure he is transported to some place far away from Baldur's Gate. We want him reporting to... Well, he smiles and says, you know who in Waterdeep.
I'm sorry, who in Waterdeep?
He smiles and says, well, never mind. Simply make sure he reaches my bakery. I will handle things from that point on.
I understand. But before I go, I'll look at some of his cakes, actually. I'll see what he's got.
He smiles and wraps you a small package, freshly baked and sweet, salty, whatever you want. He simply wraps it up and says, please hurry. Okay. Anything else, Devlin?
I'll hand him over some money, 5 gold pieces, and then say, farewell, my friend. Hopefully we will meet again in far better circumstances.
He shakes your hand and watches as you leave his small bakery. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll basically go and have a little more of a look around the city, try and make sure I'm not being followed.
Okay, make a perception check as you head back to Nathek's residence, where your 2 friends or 3 friends are basically waking up to a wonderful, wonderful breakfast. Okay, you don't believe that you were followed. Okay.
Sorry, I pressed it twice there because I didn't think it had worked the first time. There was a real delay before that first perception check came through. I was like, it's not worked.
That's fine. So you all meet at Nathek's residence around the breakfast table.
I'll have brought some cakes from the shop as a thank you to Zara and Hornswallow for their courtesy and their hospitality.
Roscoe.
Oh, hey, Thokk. I didn't hear you come in last night. Did you have a fun time out on the town?
Yes and no. I was wondering, can I borrow that pretty blue bauble of yours for an hour or so?
A pretty blue what I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'd like to talk to our friend.
Oh, sure. Yeah, here you go.
Thokk, you hold it in your hand, and indeed, Lenithan told you that you can contact him through this item. What do you want to say?
I'm going to excuse myself to my room.
Mm-hmm.
and then contact Lenathan. Give him a quick update of the eventful couple of days since last we spoke. Abducted by demons, tortured by priests.
Okay.
Let him know that we're now at the gate. That Talus has been captured, suspected of spying, and that if this key Raj at the Elf Song is one of his, to let him know that I'm coming.
Okay. So, you kind of remove this diamond and you concentrate using it, and it lights up and it emits this bluish light. And inside you can see something swirling and twirling. And as the face of this huge blue dragon form just inside this crystal, the doors to Nathek's apartment are kind of blast open, and people wearing the uniform of the Flaming Fist kind of pour in and shout, everybody freeze! And you can hear the boots of a dwarf kind of knock on the wooden floor as his deep, low voice says, "Dragon cultists, I told you." And Thokk, you are surprised as a door to your room barge kind of explodes, and drawn blades are waved around across your face. Zara screams. Khalid kind of tries to find a bed to crawl under it, and you are all kind of basically physically assaulted by those mercenaries who jump on you and try to grab you and lay you low and level you on the floor. And above all this, you can see the smiling face of a scarred dwarf that you, Devlin, identify as Grimlock.
Sorry, could you say that again? You cut out. I couldn't hear what you said.
Where did you lose me? What part did you miss, or how far did you hear me?
Sorry, I heard the scarred dwarf, but I didn't hear his name.
So you identify him as Grimlock, the caravan master that you have been working for up until like a couple of days ago.
Okay. Do the other people with him, do they look like the local city guard or something like that? Or are they just a load of idiots that have come in?
They seem like Flaming Fist mercenaries. These are like an external police force that was hired by the council to guard the city. They are known to be assholes.
Right.
This isn't the City Watch. The City Watch is like the good guys.
Right,
Okay,
so these people have no jurisdiction here in that sense.
So they have, but it's not like. So basically, the council hired them to clean the gutters, but they took reins and made themselves a local police force, even though there is the City Watch. So it's rather complicated, and they are known for being assholes and abusing their authority, etc., etc.
Oh.
So I need you all to tell me what you're doing, and we'll end the session then and there.
Okay, quick question.
Yes?
In the interval between when they kicked in the front door and when they got to my door.
Yes.
A, was I able to make contact with Lenathan?
Yes.
And B, how much time was there?
So you think about something like 10 seconds, 7 seconds, something like that. It's like a few moments between the door opening and you kind of watch Lenathan face. You have like, one thing to say or do before they jump on you.
Okay. I'm going to cast invisibility on myself and go out the window.
Okay. So this is what Thokk is trying to do. Roscoe?
Yeah, I was gonna say if Roscoe would also try and escape out the window of his room.
Okay. Devlin?
I'm gonna cast. How many people in the room with me? With us, I should say.
Something like 7 people entered the apartment, and you think there are probably 7 more outside.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cast sleep on the 7 people in the room with me.
Okay. So sleep from Devlin, invisibility from Thokk, and Roscoe out of the window. Okay, so next session we'll start with initiative rolls, and then we'll see who does what and when. Should be interesting.
Always is.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for this.
No problem.
And yeah, we'll see what happens next session.
Okay.
Great, thank you, guys. I hope you'll have a very good week. And
Thank you. Take care.
See you, everyone.
see you guys.
Fun as always. Look forward to next week.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye.